Hello, hello friends, it's Meg, and today I have a guest.
Hello.
Danny, it's a great friend of mine.
Editing Meg here. I just wanted to pop in to tell you guys this video is going to be about university tips. And initially it was going to be a university comparison. That's why I don't have a formal intro for this video. And you'll probably notice that the cuts are going to be a little bit jumpy just because we were talking about something else entirely. We just ended up talking for like an hour, and so I had to cut it down into a 10-minute video, and the best parts seem to be the parts where we were giving advice for university, and so that's what this video is. And so I apologize for the jumpy cuts, but I hope and think that this can be of some help to you guys. So I hope you enjoy.
The most important thing you can do when taking a course is this one thing, and I say this with no exaggeration. I firmly believe this is the most important thing you can do in any course you take, in any university, in any discipline, is find somebody who was successful in that course that took it before you. And the more similar it is, like if you have the same professor, that's perfect. If you don't have the same professor, you need to be aware, like, this is already not the same thing, because it is usually, the majority of the time, almost impossible to swallow all the information they give you.
Yes.
If it was possible, and if it was meant for you to truly do that, and they really expected you to do that, the grades would be 90 to 100 for the majority of the class. And in most university programs, it's not, and they do that for a reason. They increase the difficulty to have a bell curve around where they'd expect, which might be 80 or 70, or depends on, that already depends on the class. But there are people who do well, and what they have most likely done is they have known which parts to focus on. Where should you optimize? You might, by chance, meet somebody who is a genius in this field and knows the entire course. They're also worth talking to, of course. If you meet somebody who's an expert in what you're trying to learn, that's great, yeah. But be aware that they might be working with a different skill set than you are. The more you can find somebody who you think has a skill set that you have and did well at what you're trying to do, and is willing to talk to you, it's very, very worth talking to them. And that is what I felt like we couldn't have done our first semester.
Right, because we were the first ones to have experienced it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That being said, I feel like there's a lot of things that, even though I learned them lightly in Texas, I could not have received the depth of knowledge that I now have if it was not for the intense pressure that they put me on.
This is something that I'm learning now, but I think learning your own study style is really important to be successful, because I think for some people it works, like the 3-hour lectures and the hour-and-a-half recitation and then doing homework, like,
does it?
It probably works for someone.
There's
right?
like 2 guys that they're like,
probably out of
yes, like, I'd rather get 3 hours lectures done in one shot than
not us, clearly. But like, I guess it works for some people because they structure it this way. But for me, I found that like that doesn't work for me. But I still like go to the lectures to like absorb as much information as I can. But for me, what's been vital is like making my own summaries and kind of like internalizing and trying to understand what was said in class in my own words. And I think that has been something that was lacking last year for me, that I'm doing this year, that has really helped.
Something, this is a pretty nitpicky thing, but I use a lot, is Anki. And I feel like Anki for all subjects is really overrated. Like medical students use it a lot, and...
Underrated, you mean?
Did I say overrated?
Yeah.
Underrated.
Underrated.
Because it's seen as something that, like, why would you use this in math or physics? Like, either you know the concept, there's usually not a big list of concepts you need to understand, you just need to know how to apply several concepts. But I feel like Anki, making your own Anki deck is primarily what I mean, forces you to do something that is crucial, and that's asking, what do I actually need to know, and what do I actually need myself to remember 3 months from now?
And also time management is really important, which I think everybody says time management is really important. So like, you know, it's like, okay, Meg, like everybody says this, but I think time management in a way that makes sense to you is really important. Like, have a friend who like studies all day and like goes through materials very slowly but very thoroughly. That style does not work for me. For me, like I go very quickly in like bursts of energy, but I go very quickly in like that short amount of time. And those bursts are how I'm able to gain knowledge and like understand things. And I found that like if I'm trying to do someone else's formula of how to manage time, it usually stresses me out and like doesn't work for me, and it ends up like actually expending a lot more energy than I needed to. So I think time management, your time management is very important.
I think that time management for a student is largely the question of how do I make this a marathon and not a sprint?
Yes.
Unless you're stuck in a sprint situation, like I'm not going to pretend like we don't all like a few weeks before the test are like
Time to go.
it's sprint time, but ideally you don't get there. Ideally you've managed to run a marathon from the beginning to the end, and then maybe there's like a little push at the very end.
Like last spurt.
Yeah. But for me, that's knowing when to stop, which means I almost always have to leave work undone. And then I know like I could push more today, but in all likelihood, if I do this, I'm not going to do what I need to do tomorrow. I'm going to burn myself out too much and have too much resistance.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely knowing when to stop, when to take breaks, I think are like really crucial things academically speaking.
If you're considering going to university and you're thinking about where, what, why, I think the main thing that you need to be prepared for in yourself is to have a lifestyle change. And that you're not going to succeed in a new environment with your old lifestyle. Like that's just the reality of it. You came to receive a new set of skills. You're going to need to change the way your days are structured, your mentality. I guess that's it. And I feel like there's a common phenomena with lots of Americans and a lot of people who go to universities straight out of high school and they're like, this isn't for me yet. And they kind of mess around the first chunk because they weren't ready for this. I mean, to be fair, I wasn't ready at 18 either. You need to accept like, okay, now I'm going to do something different.
I think that's really fair because like I think a lot of teachers talk to you in high school about how college is going to be and how university is going to be, but until you experience it for yourself, you don't know what that looks like and what that looks like to you. And definitely it's like a life change. You have to switch up the way that you think, the way that you learn. And so yeah, definitely be prepared for that. Yeah, alrighty.
Cool.
Thank you, Danny, for being on this episode.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on your news network.
We'll see you in the next one. Bye.